That was the easiest trick in the book. Crom sent me. I'm one of Crom's devils. He sent me here. Hello YouTube, this is Mars Gaming and welcome back to another ESO build video. Today I'll be bringing out my Barbarian Stam DK for the Somerset and Wolfhunter patches. This is primarily a 2H bow build with many different variations. I will be going through all of them and the strategies and tactics that I employ while I play. This build is mainly a CP and primarily non-CP, but it can function in the CP setting because it has the resource sustain and the tankiness and the ability to take it into Cyrodiil. But I usually avoid Cyrodiil like the plague because it is AIDS. That's not true. Sometimes I go into Cyrodiil, I don't go in there very often. BGs just seems a lot more fun to me since I come from that kind of background of where it's just battlegrounds and stuff like that anyway. I just prefer BGs over Cyrodiil. Cyrodiil's fun, can't knock it, but I prefer BGs. Moving on, this build I pretty much fought everything under the sun. It functions very well. Can't really say anything bad about it, except the fact that Stam classes were pretty much bit the bullet this patch. These last two patches, magic classes have been very overwhelming, but once you get used to playing against them more and more, you just get better at dealing with them or avoiding them. Better yet, avoiding them, unless you can burst them down. This build has plenty of bursts, it's really tanky, and it can take a hit. Really can take multiple hits actually. I've been hit by 2 meteors at once and survived it. Moving on from that, I'm going to go through the character sheet now. I'm going to show you the stats. I'll be leaving the CP in the description because it's more suited to PvE content. I've been focusing on Maelstrom the last few days, and I haven't had time to change it back. I'll be going through the CP in the description on the channel for the video. So here's the stats. I'm buffed, and for non-CP, the max magic is around 11k. My max health is around 17k outside of Battle Spirit. My max stam is around 32.2 in non-CP campaigns. Mag recovery and health recovery stays the same. Stam recovery loses only 100 points when I'm in non-CP campaign, and as for weapon damage, I'm buffed. And my physical resistance drops to about 1,000, I want to say, and non-CP, just because I have a few points on physical resistance. It's going to be a lot higher. My crit resistance is about I want to say 1,200, 1,290 in non-CP campaigns. That's what I believe it is. I'm running the tower and the dubious Gamorrean throne as my food. I prefer the tower over the warrior just for more stats. When I look at the tooltips for most of my abilities, it's only 100 points less. For example, my dizzying swing tooltip in non-CP is around 1,300, 500, and with the warrior it's about 13,666 or 13,666. So the values aren't that different to me, and I prefer having the tower just for the max resources. I prefer max resources almost over anything, but the tooltip for the weapon damage is actually a lot higher than it looks. I'll buff my stats up for you. Let me go back to this one. Okay, character sheet and two-handers. This is two-handers actually at about 4k right now because of one of my set abilities. Let me show you the physical resistance on the bow bar. Let me get that going. This is my physical resistance on the bow bar. I'm running a bow that's different than the sets that I'm running. That's for a very specific reason. Now let me buff up completely. Show you my weapon tooltip. Character sheet. So it's actually weapon damage is actually around 4,630. Yeah, my weapon damage is actually around 4,630. It's just that the one of the abilities aren't showing right now. Going into it, I'm gonna go into. I guess I'll go straight into the gear first, and then I'll go into the slottables. My bow is the bow of Histbark. I prefer for this bar. I prefer having the infused bow. Infused bow is great, especially when you're trying to set stuff up. Like you're trying to get all your burst up for your Dawnbreaker, or you're trying to get your dizzying swings to hit harder after you apply like your poison inject and everything. I mainly focus on combos, so this is why I constantly bar swap all the time. I love combos. Combos pretty much make dreams happen. They make dreams happen in a way. So I run the bow of Histbark specifically for the extra tankiness because you definitely need it. I definitely needed it this patch. A lot of builds just hit extremely hard. Primarily Mag Sorks and Mag Templars. Even though that's mainly spell damage, but I prefer to have tankiness. I mean, if you want spell resistance, I would go for it. I'd suggest a Torx pack build if you want more spell resistance. But I went for physical resistance mainly to deal with a lot of other classes, the other Stam classes, like not so much other Stam DKs or Nightblades. The extra resistance has kept me alive in a lot of situations. I prefer having this over having more Stam, which I didn't really need. Or you can't run extra Stam recovery. I would suggest running a little extra Stam recovery if you're not a red guard, because I'm a red guard, obviously. But I over that, since I have so much sustain as it is, I run the Histbark bow. My two-hander, there's actually 3 different two-handers that I run. I prefer to run the Nern Greatsword. I have a Sword Singer's Battle Axe infused. This is for the other setup I'll go through in a second. And I also have a Maul that I have in the bank. I forgot to grab it. I'm sorry. It's a Nernholm Maul with the Disease enchant. On this sword, I have a magic stamina drain, absorb stamina enchant. That was unintentional, but it functions well enough, I guess. I mean, when I run out of poisons, it has to function. It does something. Besides all that, I prefer running double dot poisons. Double dot poisons are very effective this patch, and with all the shield stacking, you gotta have some other source of outgoing damage, or you're just not gonna be able to penetrate those shields. It's not so much I have to rely on it, because I don't. I hate using poisons most of the time. I despise using them, but they do the job, especially in this patch, and especially since most people run much worse things. Much worse things. So beyond that, like I said, double dot poisons. You can slot in something akin to drain poisons, not stamina drain poisons. I don't do those. Those are unnecessary on any kind of build, I feel. Mainly the health drain poisons, because there's so many things that are hitting you at one time. Definitely the health drain poisons, and try to get them to take as long as you can, as well as adding a dot poison on with those as well. I'm running 2-piece blood spawn, which I usually whenever I use the axe, the infused axe of the disease enchant. I switch this out for slime crawl that I don't have right now. Must have forgot to grab that. I probably did forget to grab that. I usually switch it out for slime crawl, but if I'm not doing that, I'll switch this out for this. For one light Chudon and 1 pirate skeleton, because who doesn't like 30k physical resistance? Yeah, if you can pretty much consistently have the 30k physical resistance with a lot of resource management and a lot of resources without having to worry about blood spawn proccing, this pretty much stays consistent. As you can see, I don't have the right traits for these, so I don't really use them too often. And yeah, that's pretty much that. My main consistent set is the trainee set. I don't care if you prefer Bone Pirate or hulking. I specifically chose this set for the combination of stats that it applies. I always go for max stats when I build my characters. It's one of the most important things you can have, especially when you get CC'd so much in this patch. You need as much stam as you can. You need as much magic as you can, and you definitely need a lot of health this patch. I can't stress that enough, really. And this set has been overlooked by a lot of people for a long time. Besides the nerf to it, because the because the last perk actually was a lot higher than this before it actually came out. ZeniMax nerfed it to high hell because they knew how strong it was. Most of my pieces are gold. I have one gold ring for the trainee. You don't necessarily need gold jewelry. Purple is fine, but I have two gold rings. I'm only wearing one right now because I have to change the trait on the other one. Pretty much on this build, I run 5 M-Pen, 1 well-fitted, and 1 infused. Well-fitted because I do a lot of running. I kind of have to give up something to get something, and plus the reduced roll cost and sprint cost comes in handy since it goes in tandem with the medium armor passive that reduces the cost of your roll dodge, so that also comes in. But I think the value diminishes just slightly, but it still comes in handy regardless. Yeah, infused, I always have infused on my chest plate because it's amazing. Why not? Especially with the prismatic glyphs. I have 2 prismatic glyphs, I believe. Yeah, just 2 right now. Yeah, I usually only run 2 on this build because I only need 2. They definitely they definitely help boost the stats. I can't complain about that. My jewelry, I'm running all weapon damage. I'm running 2 protective on the rings. Protective is honestly one of my favorite traits to add on jewelry now. It functions very, very well. Love it. Love it. I use it every time on any of my builds. If you don't want to run protective, you can still run 1 stamina glyph. I mean, you can if you don't want to run 2 protectives, run one protective. It functions great. That's what I've been doing most of the patch before I got the last one transmuted, because I just transmuted the last one. It still functions the way it's intended, but you won't be as tanky. And plus you'll have more burst because you have more Stam. I pretty much kept the necklace the same because I didn't want to change it. I wanted to maintain as much Stam as I could. So just 2 protective is enough for me, I feel. Especially when you get bombarded by pretty much everything. Let's see. Going into slottables. So slottables, usually I prefer to have, I definitely gotta have my movables. The movable Stam and health pots. Those come in handy, especially when you're getting just when the whole bunch of mag swords are trying to annihilate you at once. This is pretty much what you rely on to just run away, because there's no purpose in trying to stand in front of them, because that's literally what happened all patch. I feel like movement was everything this patch, so this definitely helps out a lot, especially when people constantly try to snare you. So that bow bar comes in handy. If you do want to run a spell resist bow this patch for this build, I would highly suggest it, because there was more mag classes than Stam classes this patch, I feel. Way more. Way more. Essence of weapon crit, so the max savagery with the health and the stamina traits on it. This is one of my favorite ones because that extra crit comes in handy, especially when you apply all your dots from your combos and then finish off with a Dawnbreaker. It hurts, puts people down. It may take a little while to put a mag sword down, but hey, they're gods in almost every patch, so you can't really do anything about it. But it has the burst to finish people off, and you have the ability to heal pretty well, so you should be able to survive. Also, I kind of like these. These are specifically when you need that just an extra heal. These come in handy. Not to mention with the DK passives, it ticks up pretty high, so you definitely want those. And these are for when you just don't have enough Columbines, so you definitely want to have maintain your healing with both of these. Okay, going into skills. So for skills, I use hardened armor specifically for the shield over the fire spray that the vault armor provides. I usually hit this one last, and I hit igneous shield first, specifically to protect the igneous shield. I mean, the hardened armor gets blown up immediately, but at least this shield still maintains. It just gives me a little bit more time to negate most of the damage, and plus igneous shield can be costly, so hitting this or getting hit by a soul assault or something, it'll help you maintain, it'll help you stay alive. It'll pretty much help you stay alive in those situations, and you can just heal through the damage and then hit igneous whenever you get topped up again. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic. I'll run Resolving Vigor. My Vigor ticks can be a lot higher in CP campaigns, but I changed, like I said before, I changed my stats mainly for PvE content, so it's gonna be a lot smaller. It should hit around 15 to 16k on my Vigor ticks. while Igneous Shield and all my other buffs are up. Actually, it'll be a lot higher. It'll be about like 17 to 18k. Shuffle has been pretty good pretty good to me this patch. You have to maintain this since BGs and campaigns are snare heavy. Poison Inject, probably one of the best dot abilities in the game. Can't complain. It's one of the best. It does the job, especially when you have people in execute range. You just constantly apply it, and plus it does a nice amount of damage just from the application itself, not just the dot. Corrosive was a huge help this patch. The just complete damage was just amazing, especially with the greatsword and with the axe. That axe bleed kicks up a lot, especially when this is active. The only issues with it I've had, I guess, has been dealing with slows. Slows kind of negates it, but if you move fast enough and avoid all the snipe spammers and all the slow users, you'll be fine. It's nothing you can't get around or deal with. Next stats, I'm running Noxious Breath, mainly for the Major Fracture and the dot application. I run Major Fracture, I run this over Venomous Claw specifically for the Major Fracture, because I'm running a great sword, and I haven't been running them all on this build, like, at all on this setup. You can run them all, but I don't feel like you need it too much unless you're fighting against tanks all the time, which isn't too rare, I guess. I do run into tanks, but the Major Fracture does come in handy. Next is Stampede. Gotta be snare heavy with the Stampede. I kinda, when the dizzying swing isn't connecting, I usually just stampede into people, do heavy attacks and a Noxious Breath. It does enough damage, and when you catch people with their vigor and shuffle and stuff down, it hits pretty hard. It's mainly to be deceptive, because some people expect you to do the dizzying swing since you have a 2H, especially a lot of mag sorks now, because they just pay attention to that. I'm talking a lot about mag sorks, I guess, because I've pretty much only been running into them. Yeah, like usually I'll stampede into them, do heavy attacks into Noxious Breath or heavy attacks into Dizzying Swing. Always start with a heavy attack, or yeah, always start with a heavy attack against most people before the Dizzying Swing, because they're anticipating the Dizzying Swing. My rally ticks, I can consistently hit 10k rallies after the Igneous Shield in non-CP. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I can't, like, it's very effective with Sword Singer. Apparently, I wasn't aware. And lastly, I run Executioner. Executioner is Reverse Slice is really nice, but I feel like Executioner pulled its weight a lot more than Reverse Slice did on this build previously. I prefer Executioner over a lot of things now. It functions really, really good. I love it. I love it. Especially for this build. And Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Probably one of the stronger abilities on this build. It's important because I pretty much follow up all my finishing moves with this. When I'm done with my combo, I usually run this. Plus the dot damage, the dot application that it has puts a lot of pressure on people. Going deeper into the stats, with the Battle Rush passive. Battle Rush passive is probably one of the more important passives for sustain, since I'm a red guard. I'm going over this specifically for the fact that my stam recovery might appear low because it's like 1266 in non-CP, but when Battle Rush activates, first I'll pop a pot and then I'll hit Battle Roar. I'm using just a trash pot just to show you. Character sheet, so it's at 1500 with regular stam, so it'll be about 1400 in that setting. When I get the Battle Rush passive to proc, it's around it'll be around 1700 stam recovery in non-CP campaigns and battlegrounds. So I have stam recovery, not to mention the skills from heavy armor. Yeah, the skills from the heavy armor passive. Where is it? Constitution. So pretty much every time I take damage, I get 108 stam back. It's not a huge amount, but it's once every 4 seconds, and I'm constantly taking damage. I don't completely rely on this, but any source of incoming resources is definitely good. Not to mention I'm a red guard, so I have the stam recovery at 9%. I get the max stam and adrenaline rush. Adrenaline rush was stronger a long time ago, but it's still very effective, and it's better than pretty much anything. And it makes red guard still very viable for DK and most classes, honestly. So basically, when you deal damage with a melee attack, you restore 792 stam, and this can occur once every 5 seconds. So yeah, it's still very effective. So that's applying to the whole concept for me is if I'm always attacking, if I'm always hitting something, which I will be since I'm running a bow and a 2H, I'm gonna be hitting something. I always get stand back. That's just how that works. And plus, movement is kind of everything this patch. So you want to focus on movement, you want to focus on breaking line of sight, and you want to focus on not standing still. Standing still will definitely get you killed this patch, definitely. Alchemy, you definitely want to max out medicinal use. I'm kind of slow with alchemy. I don't like to use up all my alchemical reagents too much. But it's definitely something you want to invest in. Alchemical use is definitely something you want to invest in. Well, medicinal use. And going back towards my Undaunted, gotta have the tier 6 Undaunted. I'm running a 5-1-1 on this setup. I forgot to mention that. Gotta have the Undaunted passive. Like I said, I stress the max stats. Max stats are very important. Gotta have them. No build is complete if you ain't got it. I do a lot of I use a lot of synergies, so you would definitely want to use Undaunted command. Like I tend to pair up with a lot of Templars, so whenever they drop their major resolve or major ward, I believe, I don't know which one it is. I haven't studied Templar a whole lot. I'm sorry. They usually give you like a purge for the whole group, so I hit that like almost every time they drop it. So that's kind of resources I'm missing out on, especially if you play in any group comp. And there's definitely a lot of synergies that go off during a BG's match, so you definitely want to get into that. And let's see, I think that's about it. Oh, yeah, definitely gotta have all these. Definitely the Slayer passives. Definitely want those. Banish the Wicked is very nice this patch since there's werewolves. I haven't honestly seen too many werewolves in BGs. I've seen a lot of vampires. This definitely comes in handy, especially when you're trying to burst stuff down. Rearming Trap is a nice addition, but I don't use it on this setup, I guess. I think that's about it for the skills. Excuse me. Next I'm going to go over... Yeah, next I'm going to go over the rotation. Okay, for the rotation, start with Rally, then Vigor, then Shuffle, then Igneous, then Hardened Armor. Light attack into Poison Inject, back into Vigor, back into Stampede, light attack into Dizzying Swing, light attack into Noxious Breath, heavy attack into Dawnbreaker. Finish off with light attack and Reverse Slice. Now, that's the kill rotation. If you don't have that up, focus on applying light attacks and then go into that move here. Heavy attack into Dizzy. Now, like I was saying, since most people have been avoiding the Dizzying Swing this patch, I've been doing a lot of heavy attacks into Noxious Breath just to keep them on edge and keep pressure on them, because your Noxious Breath applies snares. Now, don't forget to always apply your buffs, because your buffs is what's going to help you maintain your sustain and your survivability. Now, once the dots proc, that's probably when you should prepare to get your Dawnbreaker ready. So it's back into kill rotation. I prefer to use the Dizzying Swing before the Noxious Breath, because I'll use the light attack and Noxious Breath and heavy attack Dawnbreaker, because I want all the fracture applied towards the Dawnbreaker, because that's probably what's going to put people down more than anything. When I switch to the axe, it's pretty much the same thing, but you get that extra dot from the bleed. You only lose a little bit of damage, but the bleed definitely helps put a lot of pressure on people, especially with that minor, I think it's minor berserk with the slime crawl helm. It applies a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. I would suggest playing this build pretty aggressively. You can play aggressive, but never completely commit to the kill unless you know for a fact you have. For one, you want your team to be by you. If you're in a solo situation, you should definitely not commit at all, especially if you have to kite people. This build can stand its ground, but there's so many things that can pretty much get around your physical and spell resistance, like shock damage, minor vulnerability. I've seen a lot of draining poisons this patch too. A lot of people have been focusing on cheesy tactics, but that's pretty much any patch. I want to say that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys for watching. I'm going to have a few clips at the end I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Please, if you have any comments, anything at all, just hit me up in the comment section. I definitely will answer you. I also will put the CP in the video description because I want to make sure that's in there as well. Now time for the clips. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Have a great one.